morning and happy second Sunday of Easter. I am here in my home and wish I was with you guys. I'm thinking of you. I'm hoping you and your families are staying safe and well during this time. And today's story is about, let me back up a minute. It takes place in before Easter time. So it's back when Jesus was still teaching, and this story takes place in an area around the Sea of Galilee. So if you can see in this picture, he was preaching around this area with his disciples. They end up in a town called Capernaum. So he'd been days in this Sea of Galilee area. I have another picture. This is a children's Bible that my kids have used, and it's a good one. But they show pictures of, this is the Sea of Galilee. So you can see it's a beautiful inland lake, and probably a very good fishing village where Jesus did a lot of preaching, and it was a beautiful area. So this story takes place in, it's in the New Testament in Matthew chapter 8, but it's also found in, the same story is found in Luke chapter 7. So in this story, the story is about a centurion. So this is from the Sunday school material. So it's about a centurion that we don't have today, but back then these were officers in the Roman army that would be in charge of hundreds of men. They're very strong. They would wear this armor to protect them. It's made of metal to again protect them from weapons. And this armor weighed about, they're saying about 90 pounds, and they would hike about 20 miles a day. So these were tough dudes. So this story is about the centurion who had an encounter with Jesus. Okay, so if you want to take a minute and stop the video and go to your Bible and look up Matthew chapter 8, you can read it ahead of time, but I'll also tell it to you. So in this story, again, Jesus comes in with his disciples into the town of Capernaum after preaching around the Sea of Galilee, and he's greeted by these elders. These are elders in the Jewish church, and they tell him that a centurion has been looking for him. What do you think Jesus thinks about it? This guy's looking for him. Maybe, he's nervous, but he's Jesus. So, but they say, don't be worried. This is a really good centurion. He has helped us build many synagogues. He's a good man. He has a servant who is very ill and needs your help to help heal him. So Jesus says, he agrees to help this centurion. So he walks through the town and finds the centurion and is ready to go heal him. And the centurion says, wait, don't come in my house. I'm not worthy for you to enter my home. Just say the word, and I know that you can heal my servant. So this centurion tells Jesus, I'll be frank with you. I'm used to telling people what to do. I can tell people to go there and they have to go, or come here and they have to come. And I know that you can heal my servant from a distance, and I'm asking that of you. So Jesus, one more picture from your Sunday school program. Jesus has his disciples with him. He turns to them and says, I want you to pay attention to this centurion. He is amazing. I've never met a soul in all of Israel who has stronger faith than this centurion. And so then he tells the centurion, because of your strong faith, your servant has been healed, and the elders are in the town, and they watch the servant come out and are amazed at Jesus's powers. So about this time, you guys would be helping me out with this story, because I'll be honest, it's a tough one. And it's through your questions that we kind of are able to figure it out. Unfortunately, I can't hear your good questions, but I'll share some that I had. One question is, here's this tough centurion. He is, again, the boss of many, many soldiers. He's paid extremely well. He's very well, not very wealthy, but very, very well off. And he has a pension, meaning he will be paid the rest of his life. He's very strong, but yet he's very humble in front of Jesus. He tells Jesus, I'm not worthy for you to come into my home, so please just stay there and fix my servant from afar. I know you can do this. So why is he so humble to Jesus when he's not used to being a humble person? He's used to being very strong. In fact, just to help imagine the centurion, I went up into my attic and found some of my kids' dress-up clothes so that we could kind of imagine, try and imagine. If you guys got some centurion-type clothes, go ahead and pause and let's all get dressed up like centurions. This is actually a Viking will wear it this way. So I'm a centurion, and I'm used to bossing people around. But yet in front of Jesus, he's a whole different person. He's very humble. So one thought I had is to make sense of this is that it is his faith that has made him be such a good centurion. The elders approach Jesus as he's coming into town saying, there's just a centurion looking for you, but he's really, he's a good centurion. He's really been very helpful in the church. And so this centurion has, even though he's very, very powerful and could do whatever he wants, almost, he has a lot of faith and realizes that without God, his powers are nothing. So another question I have is, Jesus tells his disciples, let me get this, who have basically given up everything, all their possessions, to follow Jesus around. And he tells the disciples who have been, living their life for him, that pay attention to the centurion, because I've never seen anyone in all of Israel who has faith as strong as this guy. So how do you think the disciples feel about that? And what is it that we're supposed to get from that? So to answer that question, I just went up and looked up on my computer the definition of faith, and it is the complete trust or confidence in someone or something. A strong belief in God or religion based on spiritual knowledge rather than proof. So this centurion has never met Jesus. He's had no proof of anything that he can do, yet these disciples have been with Jesus and seen and heard his teachings and seen the miracles he's done, but this centurion has not, yet he has faith that Jesus will completely heal his servant. So it is that strong, committed faith that Jesus is trying to teach us and his disciples. So it's about this time that we would do a craft, and I don't have any crafts for you, but I do have a project that I would love for you to do, and that is to, during this time when we're home with our families and having lots of family dinners together, maybe interview somebody in your house and see if they can share any faith stories with you, something, a time where they've either themselves witnessed something that has brought them closer to God and strengthened their faith, or maybe they've witnessed somebody else just demonstrate their strong faith. So just sit around and have some good conversations and see what kind of stories you can come up with. So about this time, you guys would be getting really wiggly and wanting to go outside, and that's a good thing. During this time, it's good to get outside. And so I wanted to have you come in my backyard because you guys know that I like bees, and you've seen some of the bee things that I've brought in, but you've never seen the bees. So I thought I could put on a different hat. This is my bee bonnet that I put on, and we'll go look at the bees. So I'm out here in my garden, and I've got a different hat on. Typically, when I'm working with bees, I would have this veil on. It helps protect my eyes because bees know that if they want to take me down, they just go for my eyes, and so the veil protects me so that my eyes. I typically would put on a white shirt. Any light colored clothes are good because it helps the bees know that you're not a big black bear going after their honey. So here's a hive, and whenever I need to strengthen my faith, besides going to church, I find that just being out in nature strengthens my faith. So being in a garden or just outside looking up at the sky. But I do love my bees, and this is one of 3 hives I have in my backyard. So here's a close-up of a bee. I've put some sugar on my finger so you can see her. She's got 3 parts to her body: the head where her eyes are, and you can see she's got a long tongue called a proboscis to help suck up that honey. She's also got some antennae. These help her smell. And there's also then her middle body is where her wings and legs are attached, and then that back part is where she holds her honey. It's also where she's got wax glands to make her the comb for the hive, and as you know, at the very tippy end is where her stinger is. So we want to stay away from that. In this next picture, I wanted to show you how she goes and collects the nectar, and then she also collects pollen. The nectar is their carbohydrate, their energy source, and the pollen is their protein source. So they need both, and they need variety. They need lots of different types of things in the same way that we need a lot of variety in our food. And then in this next one, you can see there's a bee where she's actually put the honey or the pollen in her back legs. These little baskets for her to carry. This picture is of a queen. The queen is one of the castes in the hive. There's the queen, the drones, and the worker bees. The queen, there's only one queen, and her job is to lay eggs. And you can see she's surrounded by worker bees that help her in everything she does. The other type of bee is the drone. His job is solely to mate with the queen. He does this outside the hive, so he's got big eyes, a very strong body, sort of like our centurion. They're unfortunately useful only for mating, and so it comes a time close to winter when they actually literally get pushed out of the hive because they're no longer useful, and they would use up the energy sources of the hive if they're kept. So just to show you some pictures within the hive, there is comb that they make with their wax, and they use this to raise their babies. So this is a picture of a tiny little egg that the queen has laid, and it's just a day or 2 old. It will be fed and remain like that, and then eventually it turns into a larva, which they're just like these little worms that turn into like these little C-shaped worms that are swimming in royal jelly and food, and they continue to be fed by the worker bees until they turn into pupa and eventually come out as bees. They'll get capped off and eat their way out. These cells are also used to store their food. So these are cells that are filled with pollen. You can see in the upper right there's an egg, but this is their protein source. So they need to store this to be able to eat throughout the winter, even though it's really just a source that may be, periodically available to them. And then of course they use this to fill up with honey. So this is the nectar that they gather, and they dehydrate it by flapping their wings over it and take out some of the water sources, the water content, and when it's down to a certain level, they'll cap it off. And again, this is a source that they need through the winter. So as a beekeeper, we take some, but most of it we leave for the bees. So bringing it back to our centurion story, in the same way that the centurion is humbled in front of Jesus, he knows that God will take care of his servant. I also am humbled and amazed by the bees, and know that it is not me as a beekeeper that takes care of the bees, but it is truly God's work. And so I do my best to know that my job is to work on my faith and know that God has a plan for these beautiful bees. So we'll end in prayer. God of grace, lead us to walk in faith, to live by faith, and to have hearts filled with faith. For the gift of faith, we are all grateful. Amen. You guys have a wonderful week.